And so my curious and quirky question for the audience is to say, and this is true, why would an association, a national association in the United States, create a contest among their top members, a $40 million prize pool for their top members that they could share in for their social media influence and presence? Okay, I've sort of answered the question in a way, but who has done that? Well, if you were watching TV last weekend, you may or may not know, it's been, the PGA, right? The PGA has now a contest or a fund. They call it the Players Impact Program, and it's $40 million was the fund last year. This year, it'll be $50 million. And the top 10 media influencers share that $40 or $50 million prize pool, right? So this year, last year, whatever, could you imagine who won? I think you probably can, even though he only played one tournament. He got the $8 million first prize. That was Tiger Woods. Second place was Phil Mickelson, $6 million. Justin Thomas, who won the PGA this last weekend, got $3.5 million. And coming in at number 10, the last award winner was Bubba Watson. He got $3 million. And, your first reaction is to say, why are you giving these guys this money? They're multi-millionaires already. What's the deal here? And the deal here is the PGA, it's both an offensive and defensive strategy. The defensive part of it, as you may or may not know, there are tours around the world now, the Premier Tour and others, in Asia and the Middle East. And these tours and tournaments will pay appearance for the largest, the most important golfing celebrities to appear there. The PGA does not pay those appearance fees. So that's one way, right? That's one way to have a defensive strategy. On the plus side, or the offensive side, if you think about it, it's a way for the PGA to use their players to really promote the game, right? So it's an interesting strategy. Now, how do they determine who the greatest social media influencers are? Who has the greatest social media presence? You need some objective way to do that. And the PGA has, in my opinion, done a fantastic job. They use 5 different metrics to do this. So an obvious one is what? Google searches, right? How many times does the player's name appear in a Google search? That's number 1. Number 2, and they added this one because they don't want players gaming it, right? If you did something nefarious, you'd get a lot of mentions, but you don't want to promote that. So they have what's called the Q score. You probably have heard of that. This is used in the entertainment industry to understand the actors or celebrities' familiarity with an audience, and also do they have a positive or negative image. The third metric they use is from a company called Meltwater Media. Meltwater Media was formed in 2001, Oslo, Norway, and they scan 1 billion mentions a day and are able to, rank based on those. The fourth one, which is really interesting, the fourth metric system, is from Nielsen, and this is called the Nielsen Impact Score, right? And so Nielsen, as I'm sure you know, is, the radio and TV rating service. And so they are assessing national exposure for these players. They're assessing also their local media impact, and now as part of their service, they're assessing social media engagement, and that could be, how many followers they have and what the engagement rates are, right? And what's interesting about this one in particular is that Nielsen is now selling this service to colleges and universities. And so if you have a high impact score, a Nielsen impact score, why would you buy that? Well, if you think about it, it's for recruiting. Right? It's recruiting. So they can go to, great athletes, the ones they want to recruit, and say, yeah, we have this high impact score. You should come to our university or college. Now, why does the athlete care? Well, this is obviously NIL, right? Name, image, and likeness. And so the players recognize that if they're at a famous university, their name, image, and likeness monies could be that much greater. Earlier this week, I went to a Dartmouth alumni event, and the football coach, Buddy Stevens, who's an unbelievably great guy, was talking about how rough it is out there now in recruiting. The University of Texas now has a fund, right? They will guarantee all the recruits that matriculate at University of Texas $150,000, the linemen, the offensive and defensive linemen, $150,000 each. That will be guaranteed. So it's getting rough out there, right? The fifth index they use, and in some ways this might be the most fascinating of all, this is a company, it's called the MVP Index. And they make a very interesting point. When you're watching something on TV, right, about 23% of that viewing experience might be for the ads, right? And 77% of that viewing experience is what? It's the event itself. That's why you tuned in. And so they have very sophisticated algorithms now to assess the impact of logos and brands in the events themselves. And so obviously we see golfers with all the patches all over themselves. We see the basketball floors branded, right? We see the arenas branded, et cetera, and they have different metrics to assess the impact of that branding. One of the best examples of this was Aaron Donald, right? He won the Super Bowl with the Rams, and he's holding up the Super Bowl trophy, and he's got gloves on that are branded with Nike, right? So that's a huge impact right there. Okay, so what's the implication for the listeners here? Well, if you work for a very large organization, you probably know that your organization is fighting the talent wars. You're trying to recruit the biggest and best talent, right? And your organization is also trying to get share of mind for greater sales. And so I'm wondering if in the future we're going to see these kind of contests for employees to build their social media presence, A, to promote the nation, and B, obviously, to promote themselves, but as a way to make more sales for the organization and improve their image. So that's my question for you. If you work for a large organization, or maybe you're a consultant organization, this is something you should now be considering, as odd and strange and weird as it is.